Cake bake. Hilda's using magic to make chocolate chip cookies, sending them into the oven, rather than just instantly zapping up baked cookies, like a witch would do. Someone smells them from outside, and Hilda says baking is her specialty and she loves winning prizes. Then some monsters with annoying voices are here when it's Earth. And we see a smirking monster get treated too nicely by Hilda, who somehow says he's trustworthy. I guess Hilda was being brainwashed by him, because she's being out of character. He tells another monster the news, and Sabrina goes to visit some monsters for some reason and warps a big bone to them. It's off-putting that she already knows them, and likes them. None of these monsters have any business being in the show. Like Dulcie, we don't see the main characters meet them, and there's no reason for why they exist. Weatherby drives past some smoke, and a monster dumps some inedible stuff in a bowl and spins it. Sabrina calls the monster cousin Hagatha. There's definitely too much focus on these unlikable monsters, making me think the episodes where they say most of the dialogue are worthless. The worst part is that the monsters' voices are so bad that it's hard to understand what they're saying, so I miss out on what's happening in the episode, which just makes things confusing. Wasn't this supposed to be about a witch? Not monsters? A female monster says that Hilda thinks she'll outdo her in the baking of a cake. And since there's only monsters in the scene, I was so bored that I pressed L to skip ahead. Maybe I'll listen to what they had to say later, but I don't care right now. Reggie sees smoke coming from Horrible Hole, and a monster gets sprayed by water thanks to Reggie, but immediately he gets scared into driving away. Like, when the monsters have most of the dialogue, I don't feel like I'm watching a Sabrina story anymore, and I want to be reviewing the Sabrina stories. Sabrina compliments Veronica's cake as lovely, and somehow Veronica thinks Betty's cake is awful without even tasting it, when it looks identical to hers, and Veronica's supposed to be the one that's a bad cook. Good thing Veronica found out how to make cakes well. Weatherby tastes the cake, and Sabrina says Hilda isn't here yet, so she hopes he'll hurry up and pick a winner. So she magically speeds him up. Then Hilda shows up when she didn't want her to, and she wheels in a giant cake and tells him it's the lightest cake he'll ever taste. Then a monster wheels in a similar cake, and Hilda uses magic to levitate the cake. Both cakes levitate. If Sabrina knew this would happen, why didn't she warp them away? A monster says he brought his camera because he foresaw this. All of the monsters have the same empty personality. They're just comedy character. Sabrina offers them angel food, so they all run away horrified for some reason. I guess they all don't like the taste of it. And Sabrina casts a spell to get things back to where they were. So Weatherby announces the winners of the contest, Betty and Veronica. You'd think Veronica would never win. At least that's unique. Did they even do their research? Then he asks Grundy if she saw anything strange. Grundy asks him if he means two witches with huge cakes and then says no. Then why did she say she saw them when she saw them if she was just going to say no? This story was about some monsters finding out Hilda's baking a cake for a cake contest at Sabrina's school, so she competes with her in it. And since they both levitate the cakes, making magic too obvious, Sabrina has to use magic to make Weatherby announce the winners of the contest to make everything as it was. Nothing in the episode is worth seeing until the very end. The monsters being monsters just makes them seem arbitrary. They're not deep, so they're not interesting. Hot Rod Derby. Sabrina wants to pick an outfit for the Hot Rod Derby, and somehow all the boys in town are getting ready for it. And we see a monster running ahead of Archie's car on the road, as I wonder where the hell Harvey went. I guess his voice actor got fired. In favor of these monsters with no formal introduction? Somehow, Sabrina is amused by the overly excited monster, and Weatherby is freaked out by him. And Sabrina uses magic to summon a helmet and car on him. I have to assume that the reason the monsters think it's fine to keep venturing out to the mortal world is that they assume everyone will assume they're just costumes. But it's so frustrating. Sabrina says she's gotta find Cousin Wolfie and get that hot rod back. Why doesn't she simply warp it to her?
Thanks for the wheels!
She asks a mummy if he's seen Wolfie. Why doesn't she scry with a crystal ball to find him immediately? Well, by the time she'd go there, he'd be gone. Reggie says only a miracle could help them now. Why should I care who wins the Hot Rod Derby? Sabrina asks them if they've seen a new hot rod around here. And Reggie says that Sabrina is their miracle because when she's around, things begin to happen. So he cleverly tells her to be their good luck mascot for the Derby. Hilda says she did see Wolfie and he almost drove over her. Since Hilda is especially quick to use magic, even when mortals are probably gonna see it, you'd think she'd warp him to her. Some bikers waste time talking in the tank. Why were they used past their debut episode? One of them says that Wolfie scratched their tank. Wolfie says Sabrina can fix the tank because she's a witch. Wolfie would know witches have to be kept a secret. Why isn't Della doing anything about these monsters on Earth? Sabrina dresses like a mechanic and makes the tank drive again and says it's a witch's duty to fulfill a promise made by a member of her family. I thought it was their duty to not do good deeds with magic. Since when are they about honor? Reggie complains that Sabrina is riding with the Crosstown boys. Sabrina is fortunately ashamed that she let them down. Unrealistically, the bikers are able to send smoke at them from the tank and water as well. They're really smart, and yet they have dumb guy voices. Sabrina feels sorry for them, as I wish that the only cousins of hers I saw were the human ones from the comic. Sabrina uses magic, and go figure Archie wins the race because he's a main character. It's nice of him to say Sabrina let him win the race. Sabrina says that the rod she put in the tank was a lightning rod, shorting out all of their gadgets. And she says Archie picked her up. She says it's just as well that she keeps them guessing. Reggie says they won because she's a lousy mechanic rather than a witch, which is out of character. Didn't he know she was a witch earlier in the episode? This story was about one of Sabrina's cousins wanting to participate in a race car race. Sabrina's obligated to help him because he's family, but she's fine with breaking that obligation and ruining the inexplicable gadgets of the bikers' tank with lightning anyways. I have a question. Other than the monsters provoking shocked reactions from a grand total of 2 characters somehow, what would change if they were humans instead? Nothing. They act like them. They should have just been humans so I wouldn't just be asking why they're here the whole time they're here. We don't see Sabrina meet any of them to naturally introduce them and make them feel more like they belong in the show, and none of these monsters have personalities. They're just there to be goofy characters and cause problems. It bears repeating. Dulcie's better than these guys. Wolfie actually wasn't so bad as a person, but he still has a terrible design. And I was hoping there'd at least be a twist where Archie lost the race, but no. The loser character won because he's a main character and has his own comic to himself.